Well, JT, thanks so much for being here on the Freedom Club podcast. I appreciate it.
Kurt, I appreciate it, sir. Pleasure, honored, humbled, and flattered.
We've revolved in some. Well, we've talked about Don Wettrick, who's been a guest here on this podcast, will be on future podcasts. We've kind of revolved in the Wettrick orbit a little bit, and I've seen you, and we've messaged back and forth. So I'm happy we finally got this going.
Nice.
So JT is coming to us from an undisclosed location, a safe room in Austin, Texas, which is one of my favorite cities, if only for the brisket. And I'm coming to you from Charleston. So JT, thanks for calling in, and you are president and CEO of Scribe Media, which
Correct.
Definitely want to get into that and everything you're doing there. And for those of you listening on the podcast, we're live streaming this in the Freedom Club community. JT, right now we got about 730 members of that community. It's growing every week. There are people around the globe who are growing together to live the freedom lifestyle. And that doesn't necessarily just mean quitting your job and getting a new one. For many people, it means that. For some people, it means building those things that give you fulfillment around your job, so you don't just value yourself as a paycheck generator, those things. But I can tell you there's a lot of people in that community who are very interested in what you do at Scribe Media. So
Excellent.
So what the first question I'd love to ask you, JT, and we're going to get into your story, your trajectory, Scribe Media, but the one I like to get out of the way first is the word freedom means different things to different people. Sometimes it conjures up political things. Sometimes economic things. A lot of times it conjures up just your daily routine. When you hear the word freedom, what does that mean to you?
Right off the top of my head, first word that comes is financial freedom. And for me, the greatest thing about having my career is knowing that I don't need my career. So when you say freedom, financial freedom is the first thing that comes to mind. I believe I operate even greater in my role because I'm not doing it for a paycheck. I'm doing it truly because that's what I want to be doing. So I'm one of those people who literally can say, I love what I do.
That's awesome. And there's a lot of people who, when they think of financial freedom, and you said it best, you love what you do, I think they just look at the dollars and cents.
Yes.
Yet when you look at it that way, you never have enough money. So
Right.
It's not really freedom. It's almost like a financial prison. So that's the key, really. And you mentioned you have 4 kids. I have 4 kids. Part of that freedom is aligning it all together.
Exactly. And 4 kids, as you know, not cheap. So it's the financial freedom is, it's just a great place. I obviously grew up without money, so that was the definition of success for me. But then once you have what I call enough money, then what does the freedom look like? And that's where you start to, I guess, go in different angles of your definition of freedom. Freedom to spend time with your family, freedom to do what you love to do, freedom to be able to take your family to vacations or have a certain lifestyle that you see fit. But there's a difference, in my opinion, between success and freedom. Those are 2 different things.
Yeah, right, exactly. And sometimes people have to. We had, do you know Dr. Natalia Witkowski? And she talked about she had to, at one point, people told her, "You're so successful. You have so much money. You're doing great." And meanwhile, she was having anxiety attacks, going to the doctor. She didn't know why, and she had to redefine what success was.
Yes.
To completely do that. And so that's great that you say that.
Yeah, totally. And so many people may define success throughout their career. They may define success with their family. They may define success with finances. And here's the other thing. Success does not have to be one thing. You can have success on multiple levels. So when people maybe hear me speak, yes, financially, success was something I was after. family was something that I was after. So I'm successful in those arenas. But you've got people who are making $50,000 a year that you can define as successful because they are where they want to be in life.
Absolutely. I can't remember who does the study, but it's done every year or two. And it's kind of like the happiness quotient line of, and it was 72. I think it's now at 80. Cost of living, I guess, goes up. But above that $80,000 line, there's no real appreciable impact in the level of happiness in your life. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, what? How do you do that? But they don't just, survey poor people. They survey people with a lot of money, people in different countries. And it comes out to that 80 grand. It's pretty consistent year after year.
Yeah, it's again, success is defined by the individual. You have to figure out what success is for you, but then also you have to realize there is no success without sacrifice. So you have to be willing to take that on as well. Yeah.
Well, let's start with your success, and then I'd love to get into your story of how you got there. But you're CEO of Scribe Media. In this day and age, that whole industry is much different than it was 3 years ago, right? Much less 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You got the Tim Ferrisses of the world kind of changing the mold and how you publish, and now people are publishing. So tell us about what Scribe Media does. First tell us what Scribe Media does. I don't want to lump and layer too many questions at once, as I tend to do.
So what we pride ourselves on is unlocking the world's wisdom. And what we mean by that is we truly believe everyone should do a book. Everyone has a book in them. And for me personally, and I stole this from my mother, when I was a child, she would always tell me, everyone has a story. And so she was telling me this, she was saying, don't judge because you don't know their story. It just happens that paired very well with becoming the CEO of a company that we write books and we unlock that world's wisdom. So we allow authors and individuals to write their book. It may be for lead generation, credibility, thought leadership. It may be a legacy piece. One of our success stories as of recently, we just published the book for David Goggins. I'm sure some of your audience members know who that is. He had the most sought after book in America, second only to Michelle Obama's book. And so that was a big win for us. We published his book, but the great majority of our authors aren't David Goggins. They are people who are looking to grow their business, share their story, bring in lead generation. Maybe they want to speak on stage. So we help those individuals bring their book to life.
And how any old person call you up can go in there and do it, or do you have to? There's some places like, no, we're not going to touch you because until you're at a certain level.
It's not necessarily a certain level. So the number one reason we would turn someone away is they don't have enough content for a book. They've got a great book idea, but just not enough content. That would be the number one reason we would turn someone away. Number two would be someone leads with, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author and sell 1 million copies. That individual is looking for fame, and that's not who we do books for. We're looking to help individuals spread their message, make an impact, share their legacy, if you will. So those are the individuals we're looking to do books for.
Got it. And if you had someone who has a book, it's written, maybe they had an editor look at it, right? It's 200 pages, something like that. They come to you. Are they too far in the process at that point?
No, so we have two halves of the house, if you will. So we have those individuals who had the idea in their head and they want to speak their book out. That's what we help them do. Speak your book. We put the format together, make sure it flows, the structure is correct. So we have that half of the house. But for, let's say you, Kurt, you came, you had a manuscript and you said, hey, JT, this has been edited. It's great. You flip it over the fence to us. We do the proofreading. We help you with the cover design, the interior layout, all the details, the ISBN number, getting it up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, so on and so forth. So yeah, we have both halves of the house, and then we even have the ability to help you market your book through our book launch program.
That's awesome. I will be reaching out to you because the person I described was actually me. I have about 200 pages. I have an editor, but that next step of I'm actually going to have all 10 chapters done this week.
Nice.
But I do know there's a lot of people listening and also in the Freedom Club community who have maybe started it. Maybe they have that idea and it's just getting it going. And, sometimes when you just think of the end process and you think of, oh my gosh, a book on the table, how did that get a cover and how did that get artwork and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm just never going to start it. What you do is very empowering. So that's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's, I've been blessed. I'm fortunate that our measurement of success as a company, we use Slack as an internal communication, and we get to go in and every day, what author did we help achieve their dream and goal today in publishing their book? It's a hell of a measurement. We're not looking at, okay, how many more people did we add to the platform? How many more likes did we get? How much more ad revenue did we make? Our measurement is who did we help achieve their dream and goal and become a published author. It's a hell of a measurement, and just so happen we're profitable at it as well. So it's pretty fun.
That's great, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Paired with the everyone has a story to tell. I did an event, and I do a lot of LinkedIn videos, and so I get asked to come to these events and talk about making videos and successful storytelling. And a lot of people talk about the tools. Here's what kind of camera you use. Here's what, all that stuff. And I come at it from, I'm not good at that, right? 99% of my videos have been on my iPhone. And, but I come at it from what I call vision-based storytelling, which is what's the purpose for telling the story? What's the purpose? You do what you do, whether it's making a video, writing a book, or why do you get up in the morning? And then what's the impact you want to make in the world? When you pair that together, you have the vision. And a lot of people are scared of telling their story. And I use the example of Marcus Aurelius Anderson. I don't know if you know him. He's a mindset coach, but he, at age 37, his favorite uncle died. And his uncle had served in the military. And Marcus, when his uncle died, I don't know if it was a promise he made to him. Maybe it was a silent promise. I'm going to go and serve in the military just like you did. He went and got a waiver at age 37 to enter the Army. Kicked the young guys' butts, was training, went through basic training, was in the mountains of upstate New York, training like on the cusp of being deployed. And he literally broke his back. Oh. And died twice on the operating table, was paralyzed for a year. He's got a book called The Gift of Adversity. But one thing he told me, because he's a mindset coach and I coach people, is the notion that, well, your adversity was worse than my adversity. Right. Therefore, I'm not going to tell my story. And he had a quote that said, adversity is not a competition.
No.
And that really struck me when you said everyone has a story to tell, that there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, I have a book in my head, but who's going to want to listen to what Jimmy or Jane has to say?
You're exactly right. And I can't tell you how many people even approach me from that angle. And they're like, oh my gosh, JT, I had some struggles, but nothing like your story. And I always pause there and I say, look, everyone has a story. Your story is different from my story. My story is different from yours. And so I always hesitate and I take a pause there and I tell people, no, don't compare your story to mine. You have your story. I have my story. And I have to give my mother credit. I stole that from her. Everyone has a story, and don't judge because you don't know their story.
That's wonderful. So you've been at Scribe for 3 years, 4 years?
3 years now. Yeah.
3 years. Okay. All right. How did you end up there? I know you were at a company called Headspring before there for a little while. Let's kind of reverse engineer the journey a little bit.
So how did I get to Scribe? I was the president of a software company and I was on a flight and I don't like to fly. I hit a lot of turbulence and I made it my mission that when I got off of that flight, I was going to write my book. And the reason being was in the air, I thought to myself, wow, if something happened to me, my children would not know where I came from. They would not know their dad's story. And so it became my mission to write this book and to have my story documented, because I don't have a legacy. I don't have a family tree that I can look back upon. So reached out to my network, got introduced to my co-founder of the company, and they already had the company at the time. He comes over to my office at the software company, and at the end, he says, hey, you've built a great company here, speaking about Headspring. And I say, hey, let me stop you there. First and foremost, I didn't build anything. It takes a group, a team effort to build a company. I said, I've just been blessed with a phenomenal group of people that, we all assisted in building the company. So he said, hey, can you give me feedback as you go through our process? The company was then called Book in a Box. And I said, yeah, I'll give you feedback. Long story short, as I was going through the process, I said, hey, this is great. This is great. Stop doing this immediately. Don't know why you ever started doing this. Stop it. One thing led to another. He and the other co-founder got together, and we decided, okay, hey, I'm going to be CEO of the company. And so I woke up one day and was CEO of the company. And where I will go with that is, when I was at the software company, loved it, great group of people, phenomenal time while I was there. But I don't write code, so I wasn't passionate about what we were doing. I was passionate about the business. I love business and growth and scale. But when this was offered to me, I thought, wow, this would be pretty cool. The place that's writing my book, I can go be the CEO of it and come in and help them with their business practices and all things income statements, balance sheets, hiring, firing, all that good stuff. So yeah, woke up one day and was the CEO.
CEO, right. And by the way, everyone, the name of JT's book is I Got There, How I Overcame Racism, Poverty, and Abuse to Achieve the American Dream.
That's it.
And so reverse engineering that, let's talk about that, about your story, because you are now, when we talk about success, and I want to use that term in terms of how you used it. It's not just the fact that you're CEO of this company and you were CEO of another company. You're doing it with a sense of, and anytime I see you interact on LinkedIn, when you interact with me, you got a smile on your face. It's clear that you talk about your kids. It's clear that you have a sense of some alignment, fulfillment in what you're doing, a sense of freedom. So when I bring up success, I bring up that. But you obviously had some struggles that you overcame as you grew. And I get this a lot, and I did a video on this, and I want to stay away from the political part of it, but I do videos about productivity and about achieving freedom in your life. And as you said, everyone has a struggle. Not a lot of people don't realize 7 in 10 suicides in America are middle-aged white men, 45 to 54. And I bring that up not to make people feel sorry for middle-aged white men, but you have these people who didn't have a struggle or a perceived struggle who now don't have fulfillment in their lives.
Right.
And then you have someone like yourself who started out of struggle, is fulfilled. I interviewed last week a man named Alain Kapatashungo, who found himself 5 years old in the middle of the Rwandan civil war and fleeing for his life for 5 years. He came out of struggle and he is so fulfilled. He's got a sense of freedom. And so, like you said, you don't know then you have someone who calls me who's at 50 who may be close to a solution that would be permanent and those types of things. And so I get a lot when I do videos about freedom, lifestyle, and fulfillment. And I get a lot of, well, you're just privileged, so it doesn't apply to me. And I did a video. I said, yes, I absolutely am privileged. So should I shut up? And then, or if I wasn't privileged, should I just stop where I'm at? Should I, you talk about how I got there. Should I just not get there?
Right.
And there's people I think who wake up, whatever it is. And again, I'm not comparing any ism to another ism, should I move forward? You're someone who obviously got past what you went into. You tell your story to empower other people to move forward.
You mentioned a few things there. It's a hot political topic right now, you hear white privilege,
Right.
and or privilege in general, where you're privileged. You hear that one as well. And someone was taken back when I said this to them, and they knew my story. I go, well, I was privileged, and they said, okay, how so? I was privileged to face the adversity and come up in the chaos that I did, because it's helped me as an adult to be able to really see through and understand what stress and adversity really is. And so I see what I went through as a privilege and a benefit as well. So I struggle when I hear people say privilege. I don't particularly care for the term, but again, like you said, I won't make it political, but yeah, I went through a ton of adversity as a child, but it's all, the word I put on it is perspective. And like you said, you were speaking to the gentleman 5 years old in the middle of a civil war in Rwanda. I never went through that. That's a whole different,
Right.
set of adversity that I know nothing about. So I keep those stories for myself top of mind to remind myself, wow, I didn't have it that bad. I went through some struggles, but right now, I'll give you a great example, Kurt. There is a family, a mom, dad, 2 children, 3 children. They're standing on the banks of Syria, making a decision to get on a blow-up raft and cross the Mediterranean Sea to flee the country. And we all have heard the stories that a lot of these rafts don't make it across the Mediterranean Sea. I've never had to make a decision like that. I'm not down at the border of Texas and Mexico with my kids trying to get across the border just to create an opportunity for myself. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, you know what? There's someone down there that all they want is an opportunity to get into this country. So wall, no wall, whatever. Don't put the politics in it. I keep in mind someone's just wanting an opportunity to come in here and create a life for themselves. So when I wake up each day, I think of those things, and adversity is not very hard to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's clear that there's a lot of gratitude in your mindset and in how you live your days, but you don't use that gratitude as an excuse not to, you don't just say, hey, the gentleman you told me about had it worse than me, so I'm just going to stay where I'm at. Right.
Yeah. It actually, when I consider the examples or the gentleman you just gave me, it actually makes me work harder. It makes me want to achieve more, because on my worst day of being sexually molested or not knowing where my last name comes from, on my worst day, I never had to face the challenge of being 5 years old in the middle of a civil war. That's never come across my path. And we all have heard the stories of people who come to this country and they come with 42 cents in their pocket, and years later they become multimillionaires. I say to myself, okay, I had the greatest blessing I could ever ask for. I was born here. I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born in this country. Damn it, I'm supposed to achieve my dreams and goals.
So can we talk a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah.
And some of the challenges you faced? Because I think like you said, everyone has a story, and it's important to who we are now. And it's not only empowering for you to know that, but for others as well. So,
well, so Kurt, my background's kind of interesting. So give me a starting point of where you want to go with this.
Yeah. As a child, where you grew up, you grew up in racism and poverty, and some other challenges that other people don't have as well.
So I grew up, I'll give you what I came into the world. My father was a black pimp, a pimp and drug dealer. I'm 47, was born in 1971, and my mother's white. Mixed race in the 70s, not a good look, not accepted in this country, very looked down upon. And so, again, my father had 23 children. I'm one of 23. And needless to say, he didn't take care of any of us. So my mother and I were raised very, very poor. We, U.S. poor. Let me make sure I say that. And, it wasn't an easy childhood. We lived on welfare. I make the joke, Kurt, my mother and I never had these 4 things at the same time. money, food, water, or electricity. We were always missing one of those things. In most cases, we were missing two, but we were always missing one. And we would always make the joke that we were so poor, we couldn't afford the O and the R. We were just po. But I look back and I'm thankful for the things that I went through. I was in juvenile 3 different times as a child. As I mentioned, I was sexually molested from the ages of 6, 7, and 8 by one of my dad's prostitutes. I don't know where my last name comes from. My mother was given the last name McCormick in the orphanage. She was raised in an old school institutional orphanage. When she turned 17 years old, they gave her $20, a small suitcase, and they said, good luck to her. Unfortunately, one of the first people my mother met was my very well-dressed, fast-talking pimp father, and here I am. So, one of the greatest things accomplishments my mom, in my opinion, ever did was she had one child, and damn it, she knew she shouldn't have any more. So she didn't go on to have 6 more children when she knew she couldn't take care of the one she had. So I was raised on welfare. Again, in and out of juvenile 3 different times. At one point, I was separated from my mother at 9 years old, went off to live with my father, and I was supposed to be living with him. I got left with my dad's prostitute and 3 of my half brothers and sisters. My dad took off to England. So yeah, I grew up in chaos, man, but it made me a better person.
Wow. And that's one of those, I use the term sometimes, marinating in our excuses, and certainly you had enough to marinate in, but you're not. No. And why? How does that? What do you think causes you to be able to not marinate in your excuses, and not just sit there and say, I have a dream, I'm going to be successful someday, I'm going to have a nice home and big cars, and not do it?
Right.
There's a lot of people who do that. Versus you're now CEO of your second company.
It's a series of a lot of little things. One, life is not Instagram. And what I mean by that is we now live in a society where people see the big house, the big car, the money, and they feel as if it's that easy. It's not that easy. You will go through hard times, but it's what you do with it during those hard times and the mindset that you take. For me, I don't go with a victim mentality. As much as I sit here, Kurt, and I ask why, okay, why was my father a pimp? Why did he have 23 children? Why was I sexually molested? Why don't I know where my last name comes from? It doesn't change anything. So I don't look at the victim mentality. I've never felt that I was a victim of anything. If you get caught in a drive-by, yeah, you were a victim of a drive-by. You didn't expect that. If you were caught in a hit-and-run accident, you were a victim of a hit-and-run accident. I had a challenging childhood. That's all it was. Were some of the things very disturbing and graphic? Oh, yeah, for sure. But here's what I realized. I can't change it. I cannot change anything from my past. So I choose to focus on what I can change. So I don't sit back and ask a lot of whys. But a couple other pieces with that as well. I have a formula I live by. Mindset, choices, and hard work equals success. And I'll go through the formula. Mindset. Every day, 4 a.m., alarm clock goes off. There are days, Kurt, I'm human. I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. I want to stay in bed. I want to go back to sleep. On those days, I take the mindset and I say to myself, okay, somewhere right now in Austin, someone is in a hospital bed with cancer that's never going to leave that hospital bed. They would give anything to get on their own 2 feet and just walk to the restroom and have the dignity to use the restroom on their own versus in the bed. All I got to do is get up in the morning and go achieve my dreams and goals. I've got 4 beautiful children, a lovely wife, a beautiful home. I jump out of bed. That's the mindset I adopt. Choices. I will own this through and through. Every day on the way to the gym, I got to pass a McDonald's. Kurt, not going to lie. I love McDonald's, and sometimes McDonald's wins, damn it. But it's a choice. Do I go to the gym? Do I go to McDonald's? Mindset, choices, and Kurt, for me, hard work, man. If somebody's working 25 hours, I'm going 26. If somebody goes 36 hours, I'm going 37. I've always been willing to work for everything that I have, and I realize that there is zero success in life without sacrifice. So mindset, choices, and hard work equals success, and I live my life by that formula.
That's excellent. Was there looking back, whether it was your teens or your 20s, was there a spark moment at which you were like, all right, I can either go this way or I can go this direction? Or was it just kind of, you were determined from age 12 and you were just going to keep pounding away?
I've often looked back and asked myself, okay, where was that? What made me see things different? When I was 10 years old, I lived in Houston, Texas with my father, and I don't know that he ever realized he did this for me. Maybe he knew what he was doing. He drove me through a community called River Oaks, and it's a very exclusive neighborhood community in Houston, Texas. And it was the first time I had seen 10, 15, $25 million homes, and one family lived in those houses. They were bigger than the projects that I grew up in. And I remember saying to myself, I want one of those houses. And what I realized at 10 years old was I had never seen anything else but my surroundings. And so you don't know what you don't know. And that was a very pivotal moment for me, that I got to see what possibility actually was out there. So that was a moment. And the other one, Kurt, one of my favorites is, I said I was in juvenile 3 different times. The last time I was in juvenile detention, the corrections officer, he pulls me aside and he looks at me and says, let me tell you something, son. If you come back here again, you're going to man prison. Kurt, I am 47 years old, and I don't know what it is about the term man prison that does not sound right. And I swore, I'm like, oh, not going to man prison. So that was I remember that gentleman. To this day, I would so like to reconnect with him, but that was very influential for me. He said man prison. I go, yeah, that doesn't sound like a place I want to go. So
Wow.
those were 2 moments that really jump out for me. And again, I always wanted more. I even remember my mother as a child, on days where we didn't have anything to eat, or maybe the electricity was cut off. My mother would always tell me, there's people worse off than us. And even then, Kurt, my mind as a child was, yeah, but there's people better off than us as well. And I want to focus on them. And so it's just a mindset of, I don't do negativity. You and I both know there's enough negativity in the world. You don't need any more from me. So everything I do is from a positive mindset, and I do my best, even through mistakes. What was the positive? Let me find the positive out of this negative situation. And that's just, literally how I live my life. What is the positive?
And for anyone watching the live stream, if you have any questions, if you want to shoot them in here, I'll ask JT, assuming they're all good. There's, like last night was the State of the Union address, right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to get political, but whether it's something a politician says, whether it's a dumb law that's passed, there are always going to be those. There always have been dumb politicians. There's going to be slightly better politicians. There's going to be bad laws, bad regulations. There's going to be celebrities who do stupid things. There's going to be CEOs of companies who have high-profile affairs and all this, right? And there are people in the world who sit there and live by that. And whether it's Trump saying something or Pelosi saying something, you can see them on social media, and because there's 10 things in a row that they post, that they're sitting there on their couch getting so mad, and their mindset is being ruined, and it's this and that. Yes. and it's oh, I can't build my business because so-and-so just passed this law, and there's this and that, and I can't do this and I can't do that. And I worked in politics for 20 something years, and I was one of those people who would get so wrapped up in it. I would watch every speech of every politician. I would want to convince everyone why the world was going to end or why the world was going to be saved by this one person, right? And one of the reasons I got out of that and I do what I do now is to try to convince people that the true to real freedom, listen, get involved, work for change, get off the couch, stop posting on social media, go volunteer for someone, go do that. But you mentioned choices. There are things, you were born into a situation that was you couldn't control,
right,
where you were born and when you were born. How you reacted to that, you could certainly control. One of the things I want to get through to people is not just put down the phone and not, don't tune out to politics, because it's important.
Right.
But if you're outsourcing your mindset and your freedom to things that are outside of your control, then you're never truly going to be free.
Correct.
And for me to say that, people say, okay, that's one thing.
You're privileged.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But for someone like you who said, listen, you grew up at a time where certainly injustice was at a level that was different than it is now. Certainly there were bad laws. There were bad politicians who impacted you in some way. But you said, screw it. I'm going to find my own freedom, no matter what is going on in the general world around me. What do you say to people like that who they get trapped in that endless array of things they can't control?
It's interesting because I feel that over the last 3 years, the term, the word, mindset has become more and more popular. And I'm a big fan of mindset. And I'll give you a great example. You just mentioned it. As a child, even when I hear people argue about racism, yes, racism does exist. But I say to people, if you really want to go down a racism conversation, let me know. Because let me tell you what it's like when black people don't like you because you're half white and white people don't like you because you're half black. And you've got no one that likes you. So let's talk about that path. So for me, and you nailed it, I did not create the rules of society. I did not create the laws of society. But I'll be damned if I was going to let society hold me back. And I was going to find a way to understand, learn, figure out how can I navigate society to make it work for me and do so in a positive manner. Because complaining does nothing. Negativity does nothing. But my God, people have changed their lives just being positive. Negativity does nothing for anyone. So my mindset is just not what's wrong. How can I make it right? How can I make it benefit me and my family? How can I make it benefit the company? That's just my mindset of how I look at everything. And I really want my children to adopt a positive mindset as they get older, because there's so far you can go in life just being positive. And some people will say, well, JT, I don't have anything to be positive about. Well, did you wake up this morning? There, you've got something. I've had people even say this to me as well, and I won't go political, but I will go a little bit with my faith. I'm a God guy. I believe in God. And some people will have said to me, well, JT, I've prayed. And I tell people, well, sometimes you're looking for an answer that you already have. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, God may have already answered your prayers and giving you the ability to go out and achieve your dreams and goals, but you're just not exercising and executing on your abilities. Do you have your arms and legs? Do you have your mind? Did you wake up this morning? That may be the answer to your prayers, but you're not doing your part. God doesn't just hand it to you on a plate. You have to go do something.
Right. Those are the same people who don't believe in God because they prayed for the game-winning basket and God didn't make it go in, right? Oh, exactly. God made him drop that ball. It's interesting. So I want to close, JT, talking about education and schooling. And I don't use those two words interchangeably at all. You are, and one of the ways that you give back is you're on the board of the Started Up Foundation, Don Wettrick, who I mentioned earlier, he heads that up. They're doing some incredible work. And I don't just want to talk about what the foundation, what they're doing, but there are people who want to, we talked earlier about disruption of the book industry and authorship and empowering people and just saying, no, we're going to do it this way. You want to write a book? We're going to give you the shortest, simplest path to get there. With schooling and education, there's a lot of rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic on the right and the left, by the way.
Yeah.
We're going to give vouchers to the school. Okay, you have data that shows that it gets better, but it's still based on a certain system, right? And so that's on one side. You have come up through the education system in certainly a different way than I did. You've seen what Don is doing. You've been the CEO of a company or several companies where you manage people, and from an employer's point of view, you see, hey, here's, as an employer, what I need, but also here's employees who may have at one point been told no because of something else, but you see employees who may not, of different educational or schooling, depending on what piece of paper they have, probably excel or not excel, having nothing to do with that paper. What caused you to get involved with the Started Up Foundation, and what drives you, not only as a CEO, but as a caring individual, into the heart of trying to figure out what's going on with our schooling system?
When Don first invited me to be a part, I really appreciated his approach from the entrepreneurship angle, because for me, I don't say this to be a joke, I had not heard the word entrepreneur until I was probably in my mid-20s. Couldn't have told you what that meant. If someone would have said entrepreneur to me when I was 13, 14 years old, I would have thought you were speaking a foreign language. And so I saw Don was really making a true impact in attempting to make change in a broken system. And Don knows this. He laughs when I go off on rants about this, Kurt, but I find it just appalling that we know 40% of all high school graduating students, upper middle class, lower class, whatever the case may be, 40% of all graduating students will not go to college. But we don't send you in the world with as much as a handshake. We don't teach you how to shake hands in school. But I'm supposed to go get a job, or I'm supposed to find a career. No one taught me how to shake hands. No, where's the lesson on teaching someone attention to detail? Where's that lesson? Hell, they don't even teach that in college. But those are things that benefited me. Asking questions, understanding attention to detail, show a child how to fill out an application. Granted, I don't want a world full of just job takers, but you got to start somewhere. And if I don't even know how to walk into a McDonald's, a Burger King, and say, "Excuse me, sir, do you have any employment opportunities?" versus "Y'all hiring?" No, we're not hiring you because you came in here that way. But if you come in and you say, "Excuse me, sir, do you have any employment opportunities?" My God, you're probably going to have the job before you leave, because no one's coming in asking that. Where are those lessons? In my last one, Kurt, Don laughed at me the other day. What is just blowing my mind right now, because everybody wants their likes and social media and views, and I say this respectfully to those teachers, because I understand they're looking to connect with the students, and God bless them for that, because I know I would have liked the connection from one of those teachers. But I am so tired of these videos of these teachers who stand out in front of their door each morning, and they have all these different special handshakes with their students, and the video goes viral. Okay, great. I appreciate it. But where's the video of the teacher who's shaking hands with each student, teaching that student to look up at them in the eyes and say, "Good morning, sir. Have a great day. Good morning, ma'am. Have a great day." Where's that lesson? Because all of this in the custom handshake, when I graduate and I go out for my first business meeting or my first attempt to grab a job, I can't use that. but I can use that handshake and that's going to serve me. Where's that video?
That's amazing. I grew up in Chicago. I'm from the Chicago area, and we moved down here to Charleston, the South, where everyone says, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And our kids have started doing it. And we have some other friends that come down here, and they're like, we're not going to teach our kid that. That's just, they think it's like some sort of dictatorship. I'm like, well, isn't it manners? And looking, we box, and my kids box when we go to a local gym. The number one thing he teaches them is when I'm giving you an instruction, you look me in the eye, and when I'm done, you say, yes, coach, or no, coach, or I don't understand, coach.
Right.
He doesn't know. So what you said is so, at least in our household, I'm going to show everyone, I'm going to print it up and say, see, it's not just me saying it. But
it is. Those are lessons that can serve students throughout. You know, if I never go to college, I'm still armed with a handshake. I'm armed with knowing what attention to detail is. I've said this to Don. I don't understand why your freshman year through your senior year of high school, there should be a class called show and tell. And Don goes, you're kidding me, right? I go, no, not show and tell like my 5-year-old where she brings her favorite toy and tells you what it is. Show me how to shake a hand. Tell me why it's important. Show me a wealth advisor. Tell me how I can become one. Show me a pharmaceutical rep. Tell me how I can become one. Show me attention to detail. Tell me what that constitutes of. So it's show and tell. It's a basic, show me how to tie a tie. You know, I don't know why that's not a class. Life essentials, basic necessities. Show me what a high interest loan is. Show me what credit card debt is. We don't send our kids into the world with any of that, but we're shocked that we still have a massive low economic community.
It's, I love that you went that route because it's a different route than most people, 99% of people talk about when you talk about education or schooling, or, you know, they want to talk about extending here in South Carolina, extending the school day. They want to talk about money, you know, the input of money, how much you put into it. But those basic life skills that, you know, we grew up maybe they're manners, maybe they're just, I don't know, common sense, being a human,
yeah.
You know, and going through that. So I love that. JT, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Kurt, I appreciate you having me, sir. Humbled and flattered, always humbled and flattered to that people would include me or invite me to be on their podcast. So I greatly appreciate it.
And not only am I going to follow up with an email about my book on Scribe Media, I'm going to, in the show notes and in the group, going to put links to Scribe, links to your book on Amazon.
Thank you, sir.
Where else, if people listen to this and are like, I got to learn more about JT, I got to get in touch with them, where do you recommend they go?
Number one place is LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, Kurt, that's where you and I pretty much connected as well. So LinkedIn, I will post what I feel is common sense business lessons for people. I always post on LinkedIn, or you can go to my site, jtmccormick.com. And those are the easiest places to find me. And of course, you can go to scribemedia.com and you can see our whole company, our tribe, and all the good stuff that we do. Awesome.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening. If you're in the Freedom Club community, thanks for watching. We had about 10 people watching live online. This is the Freedom Club podcast.
Man, Kurt, we had 10 people. We had 10 people, and not one person had a question.
I know. I've been asking for the questions. They were so wowed. You know, sometimes we get a few, sometimes we don't, or sometimes people are listening, you know, because it's the middle of the day. They're at work, you know, our lunch listening online. So, but this will be archived in the group. And a lot of times we'll get questions afterwards. If we do, I'll shoot it your way. So, JT, thank you so much.
Hey, Kurt, I appreciate it. Take care, sir.
You too.